All right, thanks for joining everybody. Today we're going to go over the process of diagramming a small to medium network for a medium level enterprise. Starting off, we just looked up a free diagram tool online, looked up the most reputable one. I came to the conclusion draw.io is totally legit, so I went with that one. Uh, this one just asks for access to your Google Drive. Here I have two students, Du and Rosa, and we'll be going over the basics here, starting off with the physical network. Okay, all right, first let's go ahead and do a research, right? Whatever is going to be the most relevant to our learning path. In our case, right, we are all working within a small to medium enterprise, so we'll do medium size business infrastructure. And we're going to look at all of the components that are relevant. Let's make sure we enter IT infrastructure. And we'll just look for the most most simple and understandable, but also the most legible network that's relevant to our learning path. So from here, this is actually going to be a good example of the networking component. So for us, we're going to go ahead and draw the firewall, the router. We're going to elaborate a little bit more on the server side. That's going to develop the systems necessary for a IT network, the switches, the wireless access points, and then the actual network computers themselves. Okay, so here we have the business, and between the business is typically a router and a firewall. So we're going to look for a firewall first and foremost. And I'm sure you guys know what a firewall is, but what you guys may not know is that typically on a larger business, it does exist as a separate physical component. So, firewalls exist as a software, hardware, um, and then exist on the physical and virtual level as well. So, a firewall will typically route traffic and then filter traffic depending on a rule set. So typically we call them security policies in Palo Alto that say if we want to block any malicious traffic, either it's a network scan or an actual malicious attack, a firewall will help us block anything going in, out, or even internally in our network. Any questions on a firewall so far? Okay, so next up is the router. This actually routes the traffic itself. Typically, you have a internet circuit between you and the firewall, and then the firewall will give us the ability to actually deliver the traffic. So you'll often see the router between us um, and the firewall being the last port, but it is possible to have a firewall actually switched out here. So with that, we'll see the firewall, the router, and then internally, we're going to go down to the layer 2 level, and that's going to be the actual switches themselves. So the core switch actually connects the hosts together. So once we get down to um, the internal network, we'll see hosts and devices start to communicate using the network switch. If we're living at home, the router and the switch will live in the same device itself, but the on a larger level, that's just too much traffic, so we'll actually separate the router and the switch. So here we'll see um, a delineation between networks using multiple switches, and we can actually further segment these systems logically and connect multiple switches together into one network called a VLAN. Okay, so we're gonna just start here. So in the enterprise, we'll have a combination of the business network. So here, let's see if I can find the arrow button. Boom. Okay. And if we want to do even more separation, which is always good if you're security minded, let's go ahead and create these own little zones here. So we're going to put this to the back, and let's go ahead and name this business network. Okay, putting this, I don't know how to put it to the bottom. Uh, let's lower it. Boom. And then, okay, I figured it out, guys. I'm a professional. Okay, next up, let's move this out of the way once we figure out where to put it. The hypervisor itself, let's go ahead and name these switches. We'll just name these specific, something that makes sense for us. We'll call it BUS uh, virtual switch, or we'll call it server. Switch 01, something like that. Okay, hypervisor, it's either going to be potentially Hyper-V, vCenter, um, vCenter being the VMware option. Since 2005 of this year, they've gone way more expensive, so a lot of people are moving over to Hyper-V. But um, you can totally pick either or. They're both viable options. Okay, so uh, to describe what a hypervisor is, a hypervisor typically allows us to network multiple servers within one device or multiple devices. So, um, back in the old days, we used to have physical servers living on a single device. However, we've gone the way of virtualizing or turning them into digital assets, allowing us to put 100 servers into one machine. Okay, um, you can actually perform kind of uh, your own type of hypervisor if you have either VirtualBox or um, what was the other one? VMware Desktop Pro, and turn your own laptop into a hypervisor of its own. Okay. All right. With the business network, we'll call it into the business network. We'll call it data center. Okay, and we saw earlier all the important pieces to a data center, right? Didn't talk too much about or go into depth about the networking and virtualization software. It was more focused around the HVAC, temperature gauges, really the optimization of the data itself. So, in this case, right, the computational power um, from a data center comes down to the storage and then the network to support that storage. So if you're in a larger enterprise, a storage area network or a SAN is going to be more important, right? So let's go ahead and draw that out. And we're going to go ahead and use Copilot or Bing to help us indicate any components that we may have missed. Give me the IT components that are involved in a data center. Okay, so some options for storage area networks. There's a couple. I'm just gonna pick one at a random here. We'll just use I like NetApp, but let's just use the Dell SAN solution here. I was hoping to get some type of image that I could drag and drop uh, into our diagram tool, but let's see. Let's look up a SAN. Awesome. Okay. So typically, performing storage on a larger network does take a lot of its own computational power. So instead of putting it on the actual hypervisor itself, it's going to be more and more important to offload that storage area network or the storage services onto its own component. Okay. So another thing we want to add as we're going is we're just going to make a couple of networks that are relevant to this environment. Okay, so another thing here, we see storage area, network, servers, so we got that, network equipment. We can go ahead and add this. We'll just say that it is, let's call it fiber network or something. In addition to that, if you identify any additional ports protocols that are involved in the communication between the hypervisor and the switches, that's going to be important as well. Hey Brandon, thanks for joining. I'm going over the basics of how to diagram a network.
Cool, man. I've been here for a little bit, man. I just meet up with my cousins, man, but just wanted to pop in real quick, man.
Sounds good. I'm actually doing a recording, so if you do consent, let me know. Otherwise, I'll edit you out of the video.
Oh, I consent, man. I'm good with that.
Uh,
Appreciate you. Thank you.
awesome.
Cool.
If you are interested, just look up diagrams.net. We're using draw.io to kind of set up our own little network for a medium-sized enterprise. So a lot of
All
people,
right, right on, man.
yeah, a lot of people know how to do like small to medium business. Really, it's just the router, your laptop, router and switch is usually all in one. And then we know the basic 80 and 443 involved with the network. So getting to the businesses that involve 3 to 5,000 people, people start to get a little bit more lost. So that's kind of what I'm trying to cover.
Okay, right on.
Okay, so on top of that, we just went over to the storage area network. That's going to be the network attached storage. So usually, um, if you don't know, a lot of the storage services are going to be important. In addition to that, we have one of our routers, firewalls, and load balancers. Okay, so um, give me one moment. Uh, probably like 20 minutes. Okay, so another thing here is called a load balancer. So it sounds exactly what the name implies. So uh, we do have two options here. So within the actual data center as well, it's called a load balancer. So what this does is it allows a web application or really any kind of application to um, to be directed to a set of systems. Okay, so typically if you are hosting like a anything on the internet, you're gonna host that behind multiple servers, right? So in this case, let's say we're Google.com, right? Yeah, we're just gonna pretend we're Google here. Okay, and in this case, the actual web servers are gonna be placed within vCenter, but we'll have multiple servers uh, within vCenter, and we're gonna do server. Okay, yep, and we'll call it Google Web Server. Okay, we're totally a middle-sized business now, for sure. Okay, so we have what's called a cluster of web servers, right? So it's gonna be one, two, and again, sorry guys, first time I used Draw.io, so forgive me. We'll just use two for now. Okay, so as you know, Google will have a ton of foot traffic going to the system. Um, Handling all that traffic on one system um, is just going to be too much, right? So, what a load balancer will do is give the users accessing that web application or website or whatever you want to call it um, the ability to seamlessly access a web application without having to wait for it, right? So, um, users on the internet will access the system, go through the firewall, go through the usually it'll go directly to the load balancer. Load balancer will look for any free server that's not as busy as the rest of the other ones, and then they'll be directed to the web application. That makes sense so far? Okay.
Yes, sir.
And then with that, behind every web server is typically going to be a database. So we'll just call it database. Or maybe some type of SQL. This might help a little bit more. Awesome. So, in order to access the actual data behind of a web server, you need to access the database. Typically, it's going to be SQL, MySQL. There's many different flavors of SQL that will actually give you the ability to query that language. Um, but these web servers will need to talk to the separate database. Sometimes it's already sitting inside of the database, but in our case, um, it's going to be existing on a different server. Okay, so first it's going to go internet, firewall, router. I'll just put the user here. User, internet, they want to go to google.com. It goes to the firewall to make sure that we're not like a hacker trying to get onto it. Um, and then it identifies this as legitimate, routes us to one of the web servers in the load balancer. Um, there's different options. It can be round robin, least use, highest use. I don't know why anybody would pick that, but it is an option. and then once they get load balanced to the web server will talk to the database and then give this information to the user if they need it. Okay. All right. So that is a load balancer. Another thing a load balancer can do, um, if you are aware of um, a WAF or web application firewall, that's going to be something that sits in front of the load balancer itself. So we're talking about a potential malicious user. You may have heard of Cloudflare. That's one of the more popular ones. Really, this is something you put in front of a website to protect against DDoSes, DOSes, injections, and really any malicious behavior on a web application. So, if you go to any website, you can typically see that they are protected against some type of web application firewall of some sort. Microsoft sites are typically protected by Akamai, and then just about everything else is going to be behind some type of Cloudflare um, web application firewall. Okay, questions here so far? And already we're getting pretty noisy here. We already have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, at least 10 components at this point. Okay, so this is the physical equipment power supply. Really, we'll just add it here for the sake of it. Um, Surprising amount of power supplies actually do have IP networking involved, because with the health information that's involved, say basically, let's say this backup battery is about to die. It needs some way to communicate that it's either has a fault, it needs a battery recharge of some sort, and in order to send that information, it needs an IP address. So let's go ahead and let's say see if we can find UPS. Not USB. Yeah, we'll do the basic old school looking one. That's fine. Okay. And then let's have Copilot give us a network for each one. And then in addition to that, I'm going to use Copilot to kind of check my homework, right? Um, Basically, what's going to happen is I'm going to have it show me what I missed, and then we'll start adding that accordingly. Assign a network range to each VLAN. Awesome. So servers, the actual servers themselves, you typically don't want them living on the physical server itself. So let's see. Let's see if it does that here. We'll just give it server is gonna be VLAN 10. We'll just say VLAN 120. Okay. So this is gonna be sitting in 192.168.110. Oh, I'm sorry, 120.1. That's one we didn't already use. Okay, power supply is going to be VLAN 70. So each one is going to be matching to the third octet. Okay, so power supply is going to be on VLAN 70. So 192.168.70.0, and we'll call it slash 24. And then the network equipment. This is the management or and monitoring, but we also want to do. This one's unnecessary. I don't know why I added cabling because cables don't have IP addresses, which is weird. But network equipment, we'll just say it's on VLAN as well. So um, we're gonna add 192.168.40. We'll just start with 10, and then we'll say that it lives in VLAN 40. Okay, we're gonna point the arrow here, the router, and then the cooling systems, power supplies, monitoring and management. Okay, let's elaborate on the monitoring and management. Okay, so within monitoring and management, you'll typically have health systems. One of the primary ones that you may know of is SolarWinds. If you don't know what that is, uh, there it is. Um, it is one of the comprehensive, it can even do network diagramming for you as well. VMware vSphere, this is kind of the hypervisor. It has a built-in tool that lets you uh, identify any management within there. Okay, so it looks like when it says monitoring and management, it probably was referring to vCenter here. So let's go ahead and look at what VLAN it wanted to put the management zone into. It is VLAN 80, so let's put it there. Okay, 80.1, and we're going to call it VLAN 80. And for you, do I know this is kind of a info dump for you. It is a lot. I totally get it. So if you're lost at any point, feel free to let me know. Okay. Cooling systems again, physical. Power supplies, physical. Security systems. Okay. Let's call this one the security network. Now we're gonna put all the security surveillance. So we'll call it SEC, or actually business, and then servers and surveillance are way too close. You'll see CRV or SRV and SRV just way too close. So let's name our server network a little something different. Business, and then maybe virtual network would probably fit here. And we'll ask it to elaborate on the surveillance network. Okay, I'm gonna draw a little box here, and then for data center, instead of that, we're gonna call it surveillance. Okay. So we got cameras. fingerprint scanners or key card doors, maybe door locks, something like that. Perfect. Okay, and then with that is going to be the additional systems that let us know and control the network that's involved with the alarm system. So it's going to be um, the actual cameras themselves, where the data points to, where it gets streamed to, and then potentially if you want to have your own isolation between surveillance, you might actually want um, your own little vCenter in there as well. That is an option. However, sometimes you can have communication between the surveillance network and the data center controlled by the firewall. So you can have a firewall rule that says allow uh, only the cameras to a specific port, only to this IP address in the virtual data network. Okay, the alarm systems as well. That's if somebody breaks into the building, potentially um, some type of overheating issue, some type of weight being misaligned on. Let's imagine there's somebody stealing something, so that could all feed into the surveillance or security network. Okay. So we went into how a network looks like from the actual physical side. Um, there's definitely a lot more. We still are missing the user network. Um, we'll also have wireless connections that are going to be important, but we'll go over that in the next video, in the next call. So another piece here is all of the cloud applications that are going to be involved in a network as well. So often you'll have either AWS, GCP, or Azure that will live as an extension of the existing network. So sometimes you don't want to host a web application internally and allow a opening into your network. Um, you might want to uh, virtualize that in the cloud and offload that effort onto a cloud service. So um, we will see Azure. I'm more of an Azure guy. Sorry if you want to learn about AWS, but we're gonna have a virtual cloud environment that mirrors a lot of the information that we see here. In addition to that, there's going to be all the cloud services that are involved with the Azure service. So, um, if you're using Azure, you're probably using O365 and M365. So, you'll use programs like SharePoint, and then a big one is going to be Outlook for your email services. Okay, so typically those are going to be hosted within the Azure network. You're going to also have your own instance that points to your cloud tenant so that if somebody wants to send an email to google.com, or in this case, we'll just say fakecompany.com, you'll need to tie that into Azure. Okay. We're definitely missing a lot of stuff here. A lot of the services that aren't shown here quite yet is the Active Directory network. The domain controllers used to support that, which are going to be a big deal if we want to look at IT systems, as well as DNS and NTP services. But for now, we got over to the primary physical components that are required, as well as touching some of the cloud services that are going to be needed in a regular medium-sized business. As you guys can see here, is definitely a lot of cleanup needs to be done. Um, so by the next call, we'll go ahead and do some touch up, add some more arrows, and make it look a little bit more clean rather than messy. See you guys on the next one.